Came in and one side's French, one side's Dutch.
Right?
People.
And that was kind of fun.
Bridges,
Yeah.
pontoon bridges. Work and there's ferries that go back and forth. Well, we did one.
So I am, I'm not great.
There was another couple of us, we were Mitchell, this time. This girl has a voice, striking your fingernails on the line.
Yeah.
We hit another ship, people are jumping on.
Yeah. They go celebrate.
They never ever said to get another ship. Never. And we went into town.
Try to create
And
enjoyment.
we're in a store, that does all these shocking things and all.
G.
Ready?
Yeah, we only have 30 minutes, so.
No, we have fun. There's a misprint in there. We'll get it going. We get this started. This is the first quarter service area meeting for Spring Lake Garden Homes. Today is March 23rd. It is now 12:32 p.m. I am Alex Georgiadis, Director of Service Areas. Next to me is Service Area Administrator Delise Rodriguez. Joining us online is Jacob Waddle, General Manager. And in attendance in person, we have a quorum. We have Chris Muller, we have Tom Clary, and we have Joe Silva. We have a quorum, and we'll get the meeting started. Would someone like to, a motion to call the meeting to order, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Excellent. We'll start quickly. Jacob might have to jump off this call a little bit early. If we want to jump into the item number C, the landscape RFP development status, we begin with that, just if he needs to have some input into that. What is the latest on the committee side with RFP developments? Any progress, any updates at all?
On the,
RFP scope, are we going to modify it or just go out with a boilerplate template? Or do we wish to proceed?
well, I think we need to, given some of what we've discovered in the last year about what may or may not be happening or procedures we may or may not want to continue with, or how we might want to change them for more effective management and oversight and execution. I think there's probably a lot of the current template that needs to be updated. And I think maybe that's going to take some conversation about what we may want to change, embellish, course correct, identify, change, for the better. So if you have I don't know if there's a more updated draft that your team has based on recent RFPs that you could share with us, that we could look through.
Standard is the one you have, is the one we work off of.
The one from 5 years ago?
Correct.
Okay. Can you send us then, because I think there's a part that we're missing, Denise. If you can send us the whole package then, if it's possible, as one document draft. I think it's gonna take meetings outside of this, Alex, that's gonna, there may be, if you can send that to us within the next couple of days, if we can take a look at it. And then maybe schedule a meeting for next month to talk about, just take an hour and discuss, what we think might need improvement. Whether it's process, frequency, applications, what have you, to the point where, then we could talk about when it could be released. I think there's some other issues related to the RFP that we need to figure out that are germane to the RFP. One of those, which I don't think we have complete resolution of, is the scope of work of those residents that decline service maintenance, right? We don't know, I don't think we have, if there's 45 of them, I don't think we have a complete list of the reasoning behind that.
That's what we're working on. We had some feedback from our recent email blast. So ones qualified for ARC, those are within reason. They're allowable basically. And then the other ones, if we might have to require them to do an ARC of some sort if they don't want us to touch the yard. Otherwise, they have no grounds effectively, if that's my understanding. Any input on that, Jacob? If this is what they call the no-touch yards, if they don't want maintenance, decline service?
No, you said it pretty well. I mean, it's one of those, you can call it out in
I mean, in an RFP, you'd want to cover all the properties that are inside the service area. And if there's things that we want to call it as separate ones, I mean, you could. But if we would just need to know where those lines are before starting with a contract, so we don't change it during a contract.
I think that's important, Jacob, because we can't put out an RFP that stipulates service provided to hundred and 52 properties when we're only servicing 120.
Mhm.
So if somebody comes in and bids with the expectation, I'm gonna treat all of these, and then comes to find out that, you know, homeowners are restricting them from pursuing, then it's a little late in the game to figure out how we're gonna get a credit for those properties that are not being maintained. So I think that's a really big issue that we need to get to the bottom of as to what is the real scope of work that we're asking potential service providers to undertake.
We want to update this probably within 30 days, because we have to try to include this in our budget discussions moving forward. So it's something we want to do sooner than later.
Yeah, we're gonna, I didn't want to be up against the clock, and we talked about how important it is to get numbers by,
Yeah.
for the budget. So now we're starting to get a little time restricted.
Any other input on RFPs?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does this mean that the scope of work could be less and therefore the bid could be less than 152 homes? And then you may find yourself short. Because I thought the supplemental declaration said that you have to charge everyone, all 152, the same amount of money.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I don't think that in any way changes that, Gary, right? I mean, we're not gonna adjust what people pay, but if they elect to not have service, then that's their choice. It doesn't mean they'll get a credit for less of
I agree.
an expense attributed to their property.
Yes,
But we need to make sure we have, give the contractor the right scope.
true, but I don't want him to underbid because he thinks he's servicing less people. You still have to fertilize and replace plants.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we're, if there's an entire property we're not treating, I don't think that's the case. I think it's a little more sporadic than that. But I think without identifying that entirely, going out for a bid that services 152 properties in entirety is not the correct scope of work.
Right, but I didn't want to come up short.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah.
everyone still pays.
Everybody still pays, yes.
Thank you.
I think the other thing, Alex, that's important, and I don't know, I think it needs to be considered. So some of the changes that I saw in the design guidelines may also have an impact on the service that's provided.
But the
It's not, the proposed, yeah,
but they won't go into effect.
before December.
Very few. I'm governance committee. The board is still requesting inputs. The only design guidelines that will probably be published in the near future are going to be not related to landscape or lighting. It's all going to be doorbells, fans, hardware type stuff.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I wouldn't worry about
Okay.
that.
You think it'd be good to form a quick committee before the 30 days to get input from whoever wants to modify the RFPs on all the different aspects?
I would welcome input from everybody, yeah.
I know I can volunteer 2 people.
Yeah, I shouldn't be just us. I think the community's got a stake in this.
Yeah.
And the input would be appreciated.
I know I'll be there if everyone wants to, I mean,
Yes, very good. Next item, status of community notice regarding landscape property aesthetic improvement program. E-blast, I believe, went out last week. Not the e-blast to the community. Just updates on landscape.
And the money matters.
Excellent. So
But
those,
I don't know the extent to, so the blast that came out on Friday, Alex, did that go to Spring Lake Gardens homeowners constituent?
Yes, everyone who's registered for the e-blast notifications,
Okay.
they'll receive it. The other communication goes via Monday Matters, which is sent on a weekly basis.
But
So
when
whatever's
we
on
talked
file.
about sending a communication out at the December meeting, it was my hope that we would be more descriptive to explain to people what we're undertaking. the note that came out on Friday and what I saw on Monday Manners is very, very generic about, we trimmed the plants and some of them are coming back and, we're continuing planting as necessary, but it didn't really describe what we're undertaking in enhancing the aesthetic of the community. And Alex, you said you were going to draft something for us and circulate it. But that's what I was hopeful for, was more of a message directly to homeowners that explained, the extent to which we were undertaking after 10 years, a restoration of the property, as opposed to just a generic mail that said, we're continuing planting and we're going to, we cut back and we see growth. That didn't really tell the story of spending almost $30,000 to restore the community so people know what's happening. That's really what I was hoping for. It's a more direct message. I'm not sure how many people actually read and go down to the bottom of Monday Matters to see that, small paragraph. They may get distracted on the way down and click on something they're interested in, but they may never see that. And it was my hope, in December, that we would explain to people about, many of us have we all have spent a hell of a lot of time in this process that I think would be helpful to explain to people what's being undertaken on their behalf.
Okay, I misunderstood. So we're looking more for historical, where we're coming from and the amount of time we put in and what we're looking
More
for.
detail.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very brief. It just says that they're cutting back on the planting material and the service areas and already showing some sign of growth. But it didn't say really a lot about that at all. It's like 4 sentences, very small.
Reestablishing.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know where their money is going and what the committee on its behalf is undertaking to ensure, the maintenance of our property values and the aesthetics of our homes.
And we'll work on getting that.
There's nobody else doing it on their behalf, right? So.
Okay, now a better understanding. So I'll get you some this week for that, the draft, the review. Very good. Any other items, standards management, oversight discussion, any other open items?
I think that was more for me after having read, again, the design guidelines, but if some of that, if it's landscaping related, there are a lot of landscape issues. One of the issues of communicating with the 40 or 45 people who restrict service, where shrubs have exceeded the compliance standards. But, we've been walking the property now regularly since last June. And those conditions still exist. And I don't know if we've communicated with the homeowners. I keep hearing Brian say in the monthly walkthroughs that they're going to scream and yell at us. But at some point, we have to communicate that we're undertaking this process. And we need to communicate with them that says, we're going to do this to achieve compliance.
Yeah, that's.
And you can't just say no, right? So I think that needs to be part of the note also, Alex, so people know that, it shouldn't be Brian who's experiencing the ire of homeowners.
Right.
It should be a directive coming from you guys, yeah.
Site community standards.
How come they don't get cited? I mean,
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because, the longer these things go, when they're not cited, people just become upset that now, I've had this condition here for 4 years. Nobody's ever said anything to me about it. Why are you telling me now? And while some of the design guidelines correct or address some of those things,
Right.
not all of it does. So one example, like no pots and plants in landscape beds. Well, now the guidelines says that that's possible as part of a landscape design plan, an overall landscape design plan. So the people that have had pots in their yards for years since I've been here,
Right.
are they going to be, I guess the question why I wanted to raise it, how are we going to address when those standards become live? Are people going to receive the standards and then we're going to address the standard violations that do or don't comply, or they're going to be grandfathered in because the condition now changes as part of the new design? There's just a lot of things that, I reported, I hate to be the neighborhood Karen, but I reported 7 or 8 corrugated plastic piping leader extensions months ago. Not one of them has been addressed. Is that because the homeowners have taken exception to it and got an approval or got an exception because it's been that way for 5 years? Or have they, I don't care if they've been fined, but is there action that's proceeding to get them into compliance? This design guidelines don't change that condition. It's still aluminum and it's still round or square.
Yeah.
But so those conditions won't be absolved, but we seem to keep walking every month and seeing the same things that don't change around standards. People are getting notices about their mailbox flag not being installed, or a bicycle being on the porch too long, but the real things that matter relative to property values don't seem to be getting addressed.
I think, as a suggestion, a refresh, blast sent out to all of, our spring, our garden area residents needs to be blasted out along with like a 45-day, follow-up. Like you have this, these are the roles and you need to be in compliance within 45 days, or you may receive, or you will receive a notification to correct. But that definitely needs.
So there was,
refreshing.
there was a blurb in, was it this week's or last week's about compliance requirements? I think it was last week's.
Yes.
Right? So that was kind of a notice, but it really wasn't, not really that concerned about the other, concerned about the townhomes, because it's our front door as well. But, what compliance is achieved elsewhere, but to your point, having a targeted mailing that goes out as opposed to hoping people go to Monday or Friday Matters, I just don't think is the way to get people aware of perhaps their need to abide by the standards and the reason they moved here.
How about an old school in the mailbox type of letter? I don't know.
Yeah, well, some people are here, well, because there's so many absentee homeowners that they'll be sitting in the mailbox till they get here the next time.
I would think they would have mail forwarding.
They do.
Yeah, some may.
Alex, I asked on behalf of Covenants. Landscape is of course under contract, so you have to work with Brian for that specifically. But for all other things, I would appreciate if you would go to community standards and talk to Danica and just say, would you reaffirm that we need to follow the guidelines outside of the landscape issues? Of course, I do want to follow landscape.
Yeah.
But they're not going to write those up. They're going to talk to you and Brian. But for everything else, in particular, I'm talking about the extensions on the
Just corrugated. Yeah.
on the gutter extensions and anything else.
Poses in the landscape and, things that just don't belong.
A lot of that is written up, Chris, but it takes time. There is a Florida statute that we have to follow for a homeowner getting in contact with us, and then the homeowner in community standards set a timeline. If they exceed that timeline for a corrective, then it's gonna
Well,
go.
there's a procedure in place for addressing the problem.
Yes.
We just don't seem to be.
So I just
providing
asked
the notification.
confirm with Danica, please write up some of these issues that Chris is talking about. I agree.
So major ones are corrugated extension pipes, pots and beds, any other major ones to stand out?
I'm just, again, but there's a litany of things I think that are gonna get addressed when the standards come out, Alex, and, I don't wanna get in front of that necessarily. We'll see what gets proved when. But, there are issues around the community about power washing and, all these other things. But one of the things that in talking to people is a little unclear, and I think I only heard about through grapevine, was the requirement to paint or change light fixtures at the garage entries and to paint mailboxes. Many people say, I never saw that. How did you hear about that? Where did that come from? In that note, perhaps that we could send as a more targeted message about compliance.
Yeah.
If you could maybe highlight some of the things that maybe people were confused about or missed, because, some people have changed them, some people haven't. But I don't remember seeing the mail myself. I just did it because I was talking to other people and they said, yeah, we're supposed to get our light fixtures painted. And so I did, and I painted my mailbox. But in talking to people around the neighborhood, most people don't know that they ever got that notice. And it probably was 9 months ago or a year ago. But maybe that's something that could be also addressed, some of the more obvious things that, until we get the standards are maybe better and well-defined.
Yeah.
But, just a suggestion to try and move things along so that there is, a general sense of agreement about property appearance.
And won't be such a surprise when.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I may, sorry, from Covenants, the letters that go out to homeowners that are in non-compliance, state the applicable design guideline by paragraph of what they're in violation of. And we include 4 color photographs of any violations. We do have consistent problems with people who ignore that. It's their own fault.
Yeah.
But we've done everything, including the statute, photographs, here it is, it's up to you. And we say, please contact Community Standards. You have 10 days to contact them. If we don't hear from you, it's going to the board for fine. So we've done all we can, but there's this 6 to 10% that ignore that.
Yeah.
It's just consistent.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, again, there's a process in place that supports you guys in what you're able to do and what you're responsible for. And it's not like you're going out on a limb, right? It's the community standards that you uphold, right? So yeah, I don't think there should be any reticence on, your behalf that we don't want to upset people, but and maybe that was the logic before I hear a lot of this, they said, don't worry about it when somebody complained. But that's not supporting you, and the board should be supporting you and upholding what the standards are and what the bylaws indicate, so.
We'll get a nice reminder, I guess is a nice way to put it, email, just to reemphasize everything and at least get the ball rolling in that direction.
Okay.
Any other items with standards management, oversight discussion? Any other items at all?
We're having a meeting.
Next one. Next one, yeah, thanks. All right, let's jump back up to the financials, quick overview. As of February 28th, we had cash in the operating account, approximately 92,000. We will recommend investing approximately 40,000 of that into a 6-month CD. Just to at least get some return on that investment instead of sitting in an account, not making very much of anything. Is any sort of question or comment about that maybe?
What's the length of the?
6 months.
Well, you don't think we'll need it?
It's a 6-month CD. So what is it in now? Just a 0.01%
Minimal interest, yeah.
Can you look into a money market account?
Let me see what they're sort of.
There's certain minimums, right? But I know recently for some family, I got a 3.4% for as low as $50,000.
You also might look at 30-day CDs. There's not a dramatic difference between the two. And sometimes just be able to be a little bit more liquid
Or
in
ladder,
a shorter period of time.
or ladder gun.
Yeah, but look at the 30 days, or maybe if you wanted to put a small chunk into a 60-day stagger.
30-day would be at 0.75 and a 6-month would be 3.6.
Web bank.
This is- Citizens? First
That's not
citizens.
Merrill's and Schwab, it's a lot higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember, we see this issue often. The business rates are different than personal rates, and we have to use your community banking banks. We can't go to soliciting from other banks.
So maybe then, if it was a 6-month term, then the 3.4%.
3.6 is over 6 months.
Well, then why don't you ladder them? Don't do it all in one. Do 0.25,000. Just do different smaller increments so that if we needed it, we can get to it. Because then we're only taking the penalty on one small increment.
Yeah, that's there.
Yeah, if we need it.
We don't want to come short on any surprises.
I mean, we would still be leaving about 50,000 in the account, so invest 40,000.
Yeah, and there isn't anything that's so catastrophic that we fund, right, outside of landscaping.
Exactly.
It's
Correct. I mean, we're not roofs or anything like that, like other service areas. Correct.
Pools, so.
I mean, hurricane cleanup would be an emergency sort of fund out of landscaping. Consider. But again, I mean, typically 5,000-10,000 we would estimate for something like that in a service area such as yours. The latter is good.
Yeah, I was just, it takes a lot, you gotta do more, but, if you did $5,000 increments.
Once you have them going, just keep renewing them, we'll check in with you and renew accordingly.
I got one comment, it's a little bit change the subject, but it does relate to expenditures, is at the pools. The cameras work, security cameras.
Okay.
Because when we have big parties there, a lot of kids that pee in the pool shut down for 2 weeks, they empty the pool, they clean it, so it's a big added expense. Because people are not monitoring the pool, you call security or you call someone from CROA, they don't show up. and things just continue to always go on.
And the existing lawn areas on the sides and front of it as well are quite littered by the function.
Leading up that pavilion area.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway,
I'm
you
just
can't
more
wrap
worried
horses
about the
and stuff.
contamination of the pool with large parties for people. For using the pool to live in celebration. But it does come with, I think that does relate to our expenditures, doesn't it? Or garden
That would be
recreation.
more in operations parks,
Okay.
pool, and that grass area as well. We'll bring it to their attention, see if they have any input. Anything else?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to jump off this call to jump on a CJC board meeting, but thank you all for your input and time spent that you spend on this committee.
Thanks, Jim.
Just out of curiosity, if, as part of the RFP, if we do end up considering another vendor, is it possible to get some analysis on what the impact will be if we change vendors, but CROA and CDCC keep the existing vendor?
What sort of impact, I mean, logistical?
Yeah,
Huge.
well, right. I mean, and selfishly, I'm kind of speaking for myself since I live on Mute, and my garden is apparently partially service area committee, partially CROA.
I mean, it would be a finger pointing game effectively, but ultimately, there's a distinct line which defines the parks and the service area. And then it would become very black and white what gets done in the parks or not, whereas now we have some sort of handshaking a little bit. Already we have some of them used, maybe for some of the parks being updated. So it's not to say it wouldn't get done with a different contractor. So logistically, there
Could be worse.
I wouldn't say that.
I would, because we got this vendor doing poorly for years. So if you're bringing someone that has half the service come in it, instead of excuses, at least half of it's gonna be done right.
Well, I will just add, and I give both the committee and you all a lot of credit. I notice improvements and people that I talk to notice improvements. So things seem better.
I mean, that's general consensus I've gotten. I mean, have we spoken to other residents for some input? We would think of maybe even doing a survey potentially, just to get some feedback, because it's 150 something units we're talking about, making a decision to change.
I like that. Good idea.
It just has some good survey questions. Sometimes the questions are so misleading, you don't get the truth of the matter.
Sure, we could include that as well this week in this template or sort of a draft for you to review. I'll include some questions as well that you would all be on board with in the survey potentially to get some real feedback from the community, see what folks are really feeling.
Yeah, I think the survey would be helpful also, Alex, to then just define the scope. You know, if there are things people are concerned with or not satisfied with.
Yeah, what would you like change more of this, less of that?
That will lead us maybe into getting, overall through the input for the right scope of work.
Good. Alrighty, I'll give you a reminder, the Q2 committee meetings are scheduled for June 8th, Monday, June 8th. We'll send plenty of reminders for that, ahead of that.
Just to make sure.
Right. Yeah, you should have gotten invites already. If you haven't, please reach out. And then we're gonna have another meet and greet for service area in the summertime, July 23rd in Island Village. Recommend you all come out for that if you haven't been to the first one. It was a good time, good turnout. Any other input, questions?
With some of my family challenges recently, I've had trouble making the walkthroughs, the last couple of them, and I'm not sure I'll be here for April either. But is there, just so maybe I could, is there a regular week that, is it the third week of the month that we're doing?
Typically, we shoot for that. I mean, if you could let me know your schedule ahead of time, we can try to work around you as well.
Okay. I'll upset everybody.
Facebook is out of totally the main one.
I have to make my travel plans. I'm going back on Wednesday, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, let me know, and we'll try to work around that. I mean, easy enough.
Yeah, I'd like to be there, because I think when I missed the last two, but when we walked before that, trying to get some, we've gotten a lot of focus and we've gotten some, we're progressing along with the fronts, the visible parts of the homes, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen that we haven't addressed yet in alleys. And some of the alleys, some of them are in really good shape, but others are completely desolate of any plantings. And, whether it's trees that have been taken down and, some of the stumps have been cleared, and other, where there's just, you look down one side of the, behind in the alley, and there's literally nothing from corner to corner.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to try and focus on the next, but I wasn't there.
Even
Right.
if let's walk it through, we could do and I take notes, at least get the ball rolling that way.
Yeah.
We're flexible, let me know.
Yeah.
As for the dates, though, we are gonna have next year, the annual planning meeting. We're gonna have the dates that are expected for the following year
Okay.
for landscape walkthrough meetings, quarterly meetings. For this one, we are working on the one from last year, so if you don't have it, that's fine, I'll resend it, but I'll make sure to send you the new one as well.
Do you know when the next one will be for April? So, you haven't had it on the schedule or targeted yet?
We haven't even targeted, that's what I'm saying, we're flexible. If you have a preference which week, let me know and we'll just pin it down for that week. Again, we could do one offline, just you and I, and make a note and then share it. Very good. Any more input, questions? Good. So.
Just one last thing I have. So we recently, I think we're completed with mulching for our property. Right. So we're still in the process of replacing planting,
Yeah.
right? According to some of phase one and now phase two. And when we spoke a while back, we were going to get Brian to, when he comes to replace plants in the property, that they would complete the property and mulch it at the same time the plants are getting replaced. And that may not have made sense necessarily in our November or December because we were going to get mulching 2 months later. Now we've been mulched, plants have been planted, and you could see that the soil has been disturbed and it isn't clean. It maybe wasn't as important in the latter part of the year for the mulch season, but now we're done with mulch. And when they come to do plantings, they should restore the bed to its condition. And
So it's finished look.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
But if you go down Castile where the ferns have been planted and the variety have been planted, it's bare. So there's no idea when he's gonna come back and mulch, but they should bring mulch with them with the plants and finish the job. So somebody doesn't have to look at or wonder, right? Because it was not a note that went, hey, we just did your plantings and we'll be back in 2 weeks to mulch.
Yeah.
If I were the homeowner, I'm like, when is this gonna happen? Right? That
It's a never ending process almost.
it's a never ending process.
Yeah.
And you would think there'd be some efficiency that he would appreciate in doing that, so he doesn't have to send somebody else back, because it's the same guys that come back and mulch. It's not Alvin, the grass cutter. It's the same guys that come back with the same trucks and they
That would
mulch.
be ideal. The same team can take care of that as part of that process.
That is the same team, but they just don't have, either they haven't gotten the message from Brian, possibly, or they just don't do what he's telling them to. It's one of the two.
No, it's a follow-up thing. I mean, it's easy enough to do.
I can.
Good.
I'm sorry.
But it's just, we got a lot of planting left to do, and we will continue to do, and it's just a process, I think, Alex, that, has to be reinforced.
Oh, and just nip it in the bud. It's something
It's not
that's,
something we review. This is standard operating procedure, Brian, that we're expecting of you.
So what I was gonna bring up, since we do live in this special garden area, and we do have all these plants that died because of this frost, and we're in that process of replacing it. I'm hoping that we are going to live up to the Spring Gardens neighborhood. I mean, a lot of our homes are priced at 700,000 and above. And I just think that our homes should look, our curb appeal should reflect the same. And I don't really see that. I mean, garden areas, to me, it seems like green and floral, and all I see is just green, blah. It's not, it doesn't, to me, at all reflect the same. I'm just hoping that with this
more color.
more floor, I mean, it should be spectacular. People that come here on vacation and rent these bikes from these hotels out here, they give them a map, go check out this, the garden area, and it's just ugly. I feel like I live down 192 in one of those shabby neighborhoods because it doesn't live up to its name. We are in the garden area, and I just feel that we're not getting the garden appeal that we should. And that's all I
I'm
wanted
in
to say.
agreement with you, Brian, and I have been trying to put in more color. But then you get, sort of blowback from other folks who like the green and tiers, very simple, like elegant look, I guess you'd call it.
Is there any old photographs of what it used to be like when Disney first built it?
I'm sure we find that.
So I imagine it will look similar to some of the Disney parks as far as the landscaping and the colors, make it look really nice and sharp. I would imagine that same thought process would carry to a Disney property. Where it
Well,
looked
we did get the landscape plan, and I don't know, unfortunately, the landscape plan, and maybe Delise, you could look into this and see if there's anything we might have missed, but we got, the landscape plan that you helped get for me was only indicative of the muse and the common elements, and it wasn't specific to each individual property. And so we don't know, we have a good idea because some of it's legacy, right? But we don't have a complete picture, to your point, of what plans were there. Now, we have recognized that some of the things that were specified should not have been specified for this community and have just continued to deteriorate, or they have very short lifespans, and then ultimately have to be replaced. I think one of the things I learned from, this recent frost is, which is why I pointed out the dwarf exhorters, why we're using them along the fence line in the mews along the pool. They're gonna be this high, you won't even notice them behind the fence, right between the fence and the primary. They'll be, now, all 6 of mine died from the frost. I took them out of the ground, put them in pots, and they're in the side yard. If they grow, I'll put them somewhere. But they were clearly not ready for frost. Maybe the more mature ones will have a more durable appearance of them, but the Chevrolet, most of them gone, right? I mean, there's a lot of damage around.
I mean, let's be clear though, Chevrolet is coming back.
It's coming back, but it's mostly sticks, right? And dwarf exhorters, they came and cut mine down to a height of this.
Yeah.
That will take years before they ever grow back.
Well, we don't want to, we're not gonna leave them bare for years. We're hoping 30 to 60 days. Chevrolet is already coming back. The Explorer, if you're right, I mean, if they don't come back.
Dwarf exhorters in a space where you've got a 4-foot hedge, and we're putting in a row between the hedge and the fence, they won't even be noticeable, right? And then
They get up to about 2 feet, 2.5 feet.
so it's not proportional to what's there. That was, I guess, that's my point.
We should think about if we want something tall.
It's gotta be a step up from the front.
Yeah, it's not, it should be here, and it should be proportionally reflected, right? And not just, not just throw them in because they're $6, right? But I think it makes sense to create a more proportional tiering than to put, something that's gonna be 2 feet and still indiscernible behind a 3-foot fence, and have a 4-foot, primary plant.
So you want to be front row at 3 feet? Is that what we're saying?
I think in those, so the addresses I sent you were pretty much along the views, the eastern and western views. Or there were some properties down along, most of the others were along Castile. Resolute was not so much of a problem. But if you look at those, I think those are the examples where proportionality is appropriate. Where there were some things there, I think one of the standards requirements is that you put plants in equal to what was there, which we're not doing. And if that's an issue of cost, then, Brian's doing it out. I want to be efficient for cost, and we should reconsider that recommendation.
If we're saying the back hedge, I believe is 3.5 feet height, and then the fence is 3, so now we're talking about 6 inches to make a few tiers. Go ahead.
Right, you're right. It's to support the tier system and the equilibrium. If a homeowner wants to change their landscape, it unfortunately falls into our landscape contract.
Right.
You're the only one that can speak on all our behalves. So what I'm asking you to do from a covenant's point of view is you have to, if there's going to be a wholesale or even a minor landscape change from its original design, you have to go to ARC and coordinate on behalf of Brian a new landscape plan. Because every other homeowner in Celebration does this through the ARC process.
Yeah.
But since it's a service area, you've got to coordinate that yourself, Alex, with ARC.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, let's make a point to visit those muse areas. It is a unique area there.
Yeah, it's unique.
Pick the right plants for that area.
Yeah.
Because we don't have so much horizontal area. We have the height to play with.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense for something, Betty Zippin's condition, right? They've got a very, very narrow space between their porch and the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So a more mature one wouldn't work there.
Right.
But, in the muse especially, and there's some conditions around the property that, makes more sense, then we should make sure we do that, because otherwise they won't see the color. They bloom basically all year long, but you'll never see it because it's hidden behind the primary.
Understood. Anything else, questions, comments? Very good. If we could have a motion to adjourn? Second? Thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
You get a gobble.
Thank you.
These are different.
Groups of people.
Sounds like kind of similar.